It matters, Qui-Gon said quietly. It matters which side we choose. Even if there will never be more light than darkness, even if there can be no more joy in the galaxy than there is pain, for every action we undertake, for every word we speak, for every life we touch, it matters. I don't turn toward the light because it means someday I'll win some sort of cosmic game. I turn toward it because it is the light. Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Traumatic Tomes. This is a booktube channel where we talk about every sort of book on the planet. But today, we're talking Star Wars. Master and Apprentice, a 2019 novel by Claudia Gray. Now, if you don't want to hear me yap about Star Wars, check out my Goodreads review of this book in the description, where it's concise, it's got quotes, it tells you what I thought about the book. And also, if you don't know anything about Star Wars books or Star Wars in general and want to know more, I would recommend Jonathan Cohn's channel. He's a booktuber. He mainly talks about Star Wars and Star Trek, but I mean, he talks about other things too. And he knows his stuff. He's really into Star Wars. He's read pretty much like every Star Wars book there is. And he can explain to you the differences between the new Disney canon and the old Legends books, where the gist is that there's two different timelines. Disney bought the Star Wars IP and reset the timeline. But that I'm not going to explain that. That would take way too long. Check out Jonathan's channel if you want to know more. So yeah, to get into this book, you can see here we got Liam Neeson and Ewan McGregor on the cover. So you know this book takes place around the time of The Phantom Menace, Episode 1, the movie. And to be specific, this is a few years before The Phantom Menace. Obi-Wan Kenobi is the Padawan or the apprentice of Qui-Gon Jinn. Obi-Wan here is kind of got a stick up his butt. He's a stickler for the rules of the Jedi Council and of the Jedi as a whole. And Qui-Gon Jinn, he was trained by Count Dooku, and Qui-Gon's more unorthodox. He's less about achieving the ideal Jedi state and more about just getting things done no matter what, trying to do the right thing, but also not letting rules get in the way of what he needs to do. And so this book centers around the relationship between the master and the apprentice, as the title might indicate, and how they're kind of at odds throughout the whole story. And to make matters worse, Qui-Gon Jinn has been invited to join the Jedi Council, which would mean that Obi-Wan would have to find a new master if Qui-Gon accepted. So there's a whole lot of tension between the two at the time, which is interesting because I always figured they were chummy, at least from the movies, although I haven't seen them in a while, so I could be wrong. But the plot of this story is, I kind of described it as a mystery novel where Qui-Gon and Obi-Wan have to travel to this planet called Pijal, where there is a whole slew of terrorist operations going on, bombings and such, assassination attempts, where it seems like this opposition group wants to stop a treaty from being signed. And this treaty on the planet of Pijal would turn the absolute monarchy into a constitutional monarchy. So they would establish a senate or some sort of parliamentary government. And with the signing of this treaty, it would allow what's called a hyperspace corridor to open, which would make for for a better economic state for Pijal as they get more traffic to their planet. Because, in the galaxy, like, things are pretty spread out. So Obi-Wan and Qui-Gon are there to try to figure out, like, why are people trying to stop this treaty from happening. And the question's kind of like, who's behind the bombings? Like, is it actually the opposition group, or is it somebody else? There's a whole cast of characters. You got the Lord Regent of Pijal, who's he's still a Jedi, but he's acting as the ruler of the planet while the princess is underage. And this guy, Rael Averross, is a smoking, drinking, womanizing kind of guy, which is pretty antithetical to the precepts of the Jedi. So it's a little weird. And then you have the princess, who's like 14. She's just waiting to come of age. There's a corporation called Caesarca, which it's like an evil corporate overlord of the planet, and they enslave people and they suck. They're kind of like Disney. And then there's a few other people too who are high up in the government. And yeah. So what did I think about this book? I thought it was okay. I think Claudia Gray tried to fit in a lot of topics to mull over in this story, and I think she went in a little too deep, or she went in a little too briefly on too many topics, like monarchy, slavery, how to bring up our young, some other things too, where it just seemed kind of shallow in looking at too many things at once. And I don't think that makes the novel bad. I just think it makes it a little more incomplete. And I would have wished that maybe one or two of those side themes were taken out, and some of the other ones could have been delved into a little deeper. But I had a good time with the novel overall. It was fun to just have an adventure with some Jedi. There's a lot of connections to the prequel movies. You have the Jedi Council. You got Yoda, Mace Windu. There's a lot of talk of prophecy. And since if you've seen the Star Wars movies, you'll know what's to come in the future with Anakin Skywalker and the like. There's a lot of mentions to Count Dooku, who Christopher Lee played him in the movies, but he's a looming presence in Qui-Gon's life, and also Rael, the Lord Regent of Pijal, was also trained by Count Dooku. So there's some like similarities between how Dooku trained Qui-Gon and how Qui-Gon would then try to teach Obi-Wan Kenobi, who would then go on to teach Anakin Skywalker. So there's a whole lineage of Padawans and Masters here. But I've seen Master and Apprentice talked about as like one of the best books of the Disney Star Wars canon, and I wasn't that impressed. I gave it a 3 out of 5 on Goodreads. I had fun, but I didn't think it didn't knock my socks off or anything. I wasn't. I don't know if I'll be thinking about this book too long in the future. Although Claudia Gray did something in the last chapter that was uncalled for, and it wasn't bad. I just wasn't expecting it. And if you've read this book, you probably know what I'm talking about. It's kind of funny, but I was like, whoa, we're just doing that right now. We're going ahead. But yeah, that was kind of funny to end on. But yeah, for me, a 3 out of 5 isn't bad. Like I said, it's a fun read, and I might try to check out some more Star Wars novels in the future. I know my library's got a bunch. I saw they have the Rogue One novelization, and I'm currently watching the show Andor. So I think reading Rogue One might be fun, because that was actually a decent movie from the Disney folks. But yeah, let me know if you've read Star Wars books, if you've read any from Legends or the current canon. If you have any recommendations of Star Wars books that I should pick up. I probably won't go for the High Republic series because that looks way too long. But like anything other than that, definitely interested. And yeah, thank you for watching. Try not to take too much of your time. But see you in the next video. And until then, take care.